Hello everyone. So today we'll be talking about UPSC Mains 2021 GS Paper 2 question number 9. And if you see this question, if the last few decades were of Asia's growth story, then what they are talking about here. Asia's growth story, the next few are expected to be of Africa's. In the light of the statement, examine India's influence in Africa in recent years. So before you even talk about India's influence in Africa in recent years, or India-Africa relationship per se, that's what they're trying to ask you, you have to little bit explain this statement, how last few decades were of Asia's, how the next few will be of Africa. If possible, please make a map of Africa, but please don't make map like this. Let me show you something. Avoid making map like this. If you are making those kind of maps, so it's better not to make a map. Like earlier when I used to practice, let me show you some of my maps. So this kind of map, please don't make it. So practice a lot, you will become better. Avoid making these kind of maps. It's better that you write stuff instead of making these maps. Fine. So I will show you some handwritten notes as well. But first of all, let's try to see what we have to answer here. So now in this question, who is this guy? First of all, he's South African President Cyril Ramaphosa. He said something very interesting, which we'll be using in this question. What he said, we'll talk about later on. So how you can start this question? So you can start with some points related to this particular thing, which is there in the inverted comma, that you start with that, what do you say? That the last few decades saw exponential rise of Asia, driven by countries like China, Vietnam, India, etc. Now you have to substantiate how can you say that Asia was witnessing exponential rise, or how certain countries of Asia were witnessing exponential rise. So then you can say that, then you can give an example that Asia's growth story could even be highlighted by the fact that some of the Asian countries even witnessed double-digit growth. So that was happening, double-digit growth, 10%, 12%, like China witnessed it. Before that, South Korea had it. So double-digit growth. So this is giving you an example that yes, Asia was developing at a very fast rate, means fast state. And there were some Asian countries which were growing at a very faster pace. And recently there's an issue related to Bangladesh. They are growing so fast, the GDP per capita is growing so fast that in WTO, World Trade Organization, there's an issue which is known as LDC issue, least developed country. Many countries are saying that the GDP per capita of Bangladesh is even greater than India now. So this should not be called a LDC. This should not be called a least developed country. India is a developing country. And if somebody asks you, what is the definition of a developing country? The answer is nobody knows, because there's no fixed definition of developing country. For countries demarcate themselves as developing, and then WTO accepts their definition. So that is the basic thing. Just remember one thing, there is no definition of developing country. But developing country and least developed countries, they do get benefits, they do get some exemptions from certain rules. We'll talk about that later on also when we are talking about WTO per se. So now let's focus on this question. So here in the first few lines, we have talked about how Asia is growing. Then you can change the para and you can say that, however, Asian growth story is slowing down and is now being overshadowed by the growth of countries in Africa. Again, you have to substantiate how. So then you have to tell about things which most of us know, that Africa is very resource rich and they have so many things there, and they have so many commodities like crude oil, gases, pulses, lentils, leather, gold, so many other metals. And that's why they're also witnessing a phenomenon which is known as Neo-Colonialism. This term has been coined by Ghana president, former Ghana president, Kwame Nkrumah. You don't have to write this, I'm just telling you. So they have so much of resources, and that's why the rate of return on foreign investment, it is higher in Africa than in any other developing region. So this point, you have to keep it in mind. Now, once you have done this, once you have talked about this, now you can make a heading, India's influence in Africa. India's influence in Africa. And here you can talk about other things related to India's influence in Africa. So what are the things we can talk about here? I will show you the points as well, that India is Africa's third largest trading partner. Third largest trading partner. First, or the largest trading partner is China. Second is EU, European Union. Some sources will change some facts related to China and EU, but India is third. China and EU occupy the other two positions. Then merchandise trade. There's a term. You should be knowing the meaning of this term. What is merchandise trade? So total annual merchandise trade, which is between India and Africa, it is estimated at around $170 billion. And this is nearly a tenth of India's global trade. So you can use that fact, but first of all, you need to understand what is merchandise trade. What do you understand by merchandise trade? So merchandise trade means export or import of goods. So here you're not talking about services, export or import of goods, that is known as merchandise trade. These are small little things, but we should be knowing this. Export or import of goods. ठीक है? Now the next part here is, so you have given some points. The third point which you can talk about is, and I will show you these points. I have handwritten notes related to this. The third point which you can talk about India's influence in Africa is that there's a country called Nigeria. When we talk about Africa, most of the people feel like South Africa is the largest trading partner or India's biggest trading partner in Africa. That is wrong. Nigeria is India's biggest trading partner. So there are over 135 Indian companies who have a footprint in Nigeria. And Nigeria, please remember, is India's biggest trading partner in Africa, not South Africa. And what are these companies who are operating in countries like Nigeria, among other countries? SBI, New India Assurance, Mekon. These are in public sector. Then in private sector, you have Bharti Airtel, Tata, etc. So this can be your third point. Then Cyril Ramaphosa. I just show you this sir's image now. So he said something very interesting about India-South Africa relationship. He said that India and South Africa, they are two sister countries separated by an ocean, but bounded by history. This point. India, South Africa, they are two sister countries separated by an ocean, bounded by history. Then the next point, so I'm just giving you the fifth point. At political level, there's a country in Africa which is known as Algeria. Very important country for us. Why? We'll talk about it. Algeria. Keep on looking at the maps also, because there's so many questions on map which has been asked in, or which is asked by UPSC and other PSCs. So at political level, this country, Algeria, they are one of the very few countries in OIC. What is OIC, sir? Organization of Islamic Cooperation, which is said to be the voice of the Muslim world. And Algeria is one of the very few countries of OIC which supports us, which supports India's case against terrorism. Most of the countries of OIC, they support Pakistan on Kashmir issue, but this Algeria is one of the rare cases who are supporting us or who are supporting India's case against terrorism. So this is also a very important point which you have to keep in mind. Then initiatives like Asia-Africa Growth Corridor, this India-Africa Forum Summit, they have also played a crucial role in increasing India's influence in Africa. This point you can write. Then the last, or I've given you 6 points up until now. Hopefully you're noting it down. The 7th point you can talk about is medical diplomacy. What is medical diplomacy, Saranna? Medical diplomacy. So like medical diplomacy is, we provide very cheap medicines, we provide generic medicines and all those things. And this thing we did even during the COVID-19 phenomena. So we use this medical diplomacy to help African nations with essential medicines and vaccines. So before we talk about the conclusion, so these points you can talk about and then you can write a conclusion. Let me show you some hard copy notes. So what we were talking about in the first point, we have talked about that India is Africa's, which one? Third largest trading partner, second largest. What was the point here? This point we have talked about, that India is Africa's third largest trading partner. So do remember these points. Then annual merchandise trade estimated at around $70 billion. So this point also we have talked about. Then we have talked about Nigeria, which is the biggest trading partner in Africa, which is India's biggest trading partner in Africa, Nigeria. So do remember this, Nigeria is India's biggest trading partner and over 135 Indian companies are investing there. So I have given you that point as well. Then we were talking about India-South Africa point or relationship. And Cyril Ramaphosa, South African president, who even visited us on one of the Republic Days, he said that India and South Africa, they are two sister countries separated by an ocean, bounded by history. This again shows the influence which India has in African countries like South Africa. Then we have talked about Algeria. Algeria thing, I have also shown you this one, that at political level, Algeria is one of the very few members of OIC which is supporting us or supporting our case against terrorism. So these points we have discussed. Then the question here is, how will you conclude this? How you will conclude your answer? What are the things which you will write in your conclusion? Because conclusion is important, man. Sometimes what happens now, we don't write the conclusion, but you should, even if it's one line, it's fine. So you can conclude by saying that India and Africa, they are historic partners. There is immense scope of potential in the sphere of economy, defense and security, etc., etc. And New Delhi must enhance cooperation between various African nations at various fronts to leverage the benefits with African continent. So that would be it. If you are writing all these points, most of the things, like, again, this I say after completing every question, that very easy right now for me to make answers. But even if you have written 30-40% of these points, you'll get good marks. It's all about how you write. Like, there are 20 questions. If you're writing average answers for 15, 16, 3, 4 poor answers, even then you will clear it, rather than writing 10 very good answer, 4, 5 average or bad answers, and leaving 4, 5 questions. So try to attempt as many as you can. Take care, be blessed. Bye bye. In the next video, we'll talk about question number 10.